You're listening to Partnernomics Podcast, where we discuss the art and science of developing successful strategic partnerships. To learn more about the suite of Partnernomics solutions, visit partnernomics.com.
Welcome back to another episode of Partnernomics Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Brigman. And on today's show, we have Yoav Snir with us. Yoav is the head of global digital partnerships at Amdocs, a massive company that I had the pleasure of doing some work with earlier in my career. And Yoav is also an entrepreneur and an aspiring musician. So we're definitely glad to get into this topic as well, Yoav. But yeah, thanks for your time, Yoav.
Thank you. I've been waiting to have this chat with you. I think when we talked last time, we connected on different things, and I'll be happy to share my story. And if I can share some of my insight that I gained along the way of this journey with your listener, and someone will find beneficial, that's more or less what we can do.
Absolutely. So Yoav, talk to us a little bit, if you would, about your early career and then your journey of how you got to the U.S.
Sure. Well, actually, that's pretty easy. I got here in 2008 with my family, with my wife and two boys. Amdocs, the company I work for, is an international company. We do business with, or we serve the 300 telecommunication and media providers around the world, the likes of Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, and then internationally, the Vodafone Group, Orange, America Mobile, and so on and so forth. And one of the things we do is that we have, since those are massive accounts or customers, and we serve them, some of them for many, many years, like, for example, Sprint or Sprint Nextel when it was still that. And we've been working with them for probably around 20 years. So we have always have a local account team, a dedicated account team that serve the customer, and we have them sit with the customers. So back in 2009, I was offered the position with our Sprint account here in Overland Park. And obviously when they offered me the job, I was back in Israel back then, I didn't know where it was on the map, like many of my friends now still do. So after I took a short trip and came here and met the people and seen the place, well, the rest is history, right? So I said, hey, I love the place. We're moving here. I moved here, and we've been here ever since. Actually, when I moved to I did a few roles with our Sprint account, and after 5 years, when it was time to move on, and I moved on to the partnership world, and so my boss back then said, hey, now that you have all of North America, why won't you move somewhere more central? So you can guess what I told him, right? I told him, hey, it doesn't get any more central than Kansas City.
I was going to say, it is right smack in the middle.
Yeah, and honestly, I like it here. My wife, the kids will like it here. So if you don't mind, I'll stay and I'll just connect more and I'll fly. So that's how I got here.
Awesome. Yeah. So you come to the U.S. Via Israel, and I was collaborating with a professional colleague from Monday.com, and I learned that not only is Monday an Israeli company, but she also said that Israel has the most is basically seen as the most entrepreneurial country in the world. And I was fascinated by that. So we had this really interesting conversation, and you and I were chatting about it a minute ago. So you said that there are more startups in Israel, or I guess Israel is only second to the United States for the quantity of startups, and Israel's about a third of the size of the state of Kansas. Is that right?
Yeah, more or less. So Israel is also called the startup nation. There's actually a book by that title that you may have heard of, and there's actually a sequel for that. I can send you the link later so you can post it on your website. But that's true. Israel is very fortunate to be one of the startups or innovation hubs in the world, and it is second only to the US in the number of startups, at least last time I checked, that we produce. And then if you do the math of the size and the size of population, so it's probably in per capita or per any measurements, probably one of the leaders in the world. And there are many reasons for that we could probably cover on another podcast, because that's a topic by itself.
Absolutely.
But I have to say that in my current role, I work with entrepreneurs and businesses from all around the world, anywhere from the two guys and a girl in the garage somewhere, all the way to the big companies like the likes of Adobe, which is one of my partners in the digital domain, and others like AWS and Microsoft. And I have to say that innovation, entrepreneurship is everywhere, right? And even if you look at our metro area, when I came here in 2008, what we talked about just a few minutes ago, there was not a lot going on. The two main employers were Sprint and Cerner, I guess, and maybe a few banks downtown. Now, granted, it's 12 years later, but there's probably 15 minutes away from my house, there are hundreds of startups from every size and feature in agriculture and in veterinarian and fintech and logistics and you name it, right? And when I tell it to people that are coming from the big hubs, like from New York, from Boston, from the Silicon Valley, or from Tel Aviv, and I tell them, hey, I live in Kansas, so they after they finish with the jokes on the Yellow Brick Road and Dorothy, and they said, so there's nothing there, just cornfield, right? I said, well, they are actually like 10 minutes away from my house, but 10 minutes the other way, they're like probably 3 to 5 incubators and hundreds of startups. But really, innovation is everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing I guess there's the internet, software, hardware. I mean, I love where we are, as I would call myself an entrepreneur. My company, PARTNERNOMICS, is business number 6 for me over the past 26 years. And I think today, the resources that we have and the capabilities that, to build businesses cost effectively, there are companies for just a few $1,000s that could literally be developing products and competing with billion-dollar companies and frankly winning contracts. I think there's more capabilities now to do that today than we've ever had before.
Definitely, and it's just keep on rolling. And I'm spending some time out of my week usually trying to talk to different people outside of my day-to-day job, whether it's local entrepreneurs or just people in other industries, and I meet fascinating people, and some of those are young entrepreneurs, some of them young, like literally out of college with an amazing idea and a huge drive and ambition, just making it. Granted that they will need the guidance and people that've been in the business for more than a few years and maybe with like a dash of gray hair and can save them from the mistake we all made and help them get through it better. But actually there is also value in failing. Speaking of an entrepreneurial spirit and the startup nation, there is value in failure. If you're an entrepreneur, there's no way you will be successful all the time. If you do, it's probably a miracle. But if you look at the statistics for startups, I think it's somewhere between 5 to 15% that make it. All the rest don't. But you learn more from your mistakes than you learn from your successes, which might be a cliche, but I guess it's true.
Yeah, so true, so true. You also, I want to talk about, so you are you're the global lead for digital partnerships at Amdocs. So, what does that mean? You shared, some of the different partners that you have and that you work with, the AWSs of the world, but more specifically, what does your team focus on, and what's the value, and what are you executing against to help Amdocs?
Right. So first of all, a bit about Amdocs, just for those of you who haven't heard of it, and if you're not in the telecommunication business, most likely you haven't. But actually, it's very likely that we've touched your life at least once in the past 30 days, if not more, because our company is the engine behind the big telcos of the world, right? So Amdocs is the billing engine and the care engine. So if you call the call center and you talk to the agent, most likely on their desktop, they had our solution. Or when you got the bill, whether it's on print like we used to, or in the mail or on the website, there's a good chance that we have done it for your telco, whether it's, again, in the States, T-Mobile, Sprint, AT&T, Comcast, and others. So Amdocs is a 26,000 employees worldwide. Public company is the NASDAQ, 4 billion in revenue, and we've been around for over 30 years. And we actually reinvented ourselves. We started in Yellow Pages many, many years ago, 30 years ago, and evolved into Yellow Pages billing, then into actual billing of calls. It was wireline back then into billing, customer care, BSS, OS, and today we do everything telco, right? And when we try to be everything for our customer, enable their business. And we have a lot of services, a lot of products that we do in-house, but obviously we don't have everything. We're not the best of everything. We don't pretend to be. So this is where our partners come in. And we have partners that span from the basic infrastructure, like the boxes, server storage, and the AWS infrastructure and Azure and those guys, all the way to the software infrastructure, and then to solutions, and all the way to services. Now, specifically for the software solution, which is what I'm focusing on, wherever we don't have a business solution for a customer problem, we bring in our partners. We sell them or provide them to our customers as part of our solution, sometimes bundled and integrated, and sometimes as a simple turnkey project that we can turn on in a few weeks. So we make the technology available, resell it, we implement it together with the partner, and we leverage our relationship and our delivery capabilities, and of course, our track records of project delivery and the faith the customer had in us and the knowledge of their business to bring them the partner solution in a easier, more productive manner.
Yoav, what would you say is some of the more challenging parts of making partnerships work? So I mean, your folks, your team, your organization, you guys work with some of the biggest companies that there are in the world to put these solutions together for your clients. What are some of the more challenging parts that you have to overcome, or maybe things that you have to train and teach your staff that will help make your partnerships more successful for everybody?
I think that in my world, in our world of, call it the enterprise business, where we have a few hundred customers, but we also have, only in the software domain, only in my domain, I have about 100 partners, which is quite a lot, right? And obviously I don't talk to all of them on a daily basis as much as I like to, and we don't work with all of them on a daily basis, but that's it. So I think probably the first thing is focus, both in terms of the match of which customer has what need at what time, and on the one hand, on the other, and it's always a balancing act, because on the one hand, I would like to bring everything I can, all the value I can to every customer, but you can't do that. And I want to sell each and every partner. We can't do that either, right? So focus is probably the first thing. And what we've actually done, we've recently kind of relaunched our partner program. I think I mentioned that to you before. And one of the things we have done that we haven't done, at least not formally, in the past 20 years that we've been working with partners, is something very trivial that is called a focus partner. So we've defined some criteria and selected a handful of customers, of partners, in every domain. And probably all in all is between like 10 to 15 that will be a focus partner. Usually there are partners that are more mature, that we've been doing business for a while. We have a certain volume of business. They have a proven track record with us. So we had some success stories, so on and so forth. And those are the partners that we invest more time with. go proactively to customer, try to pitch and create proactive opportunities with, while with others, it's it can be a very substantial business, but it's either more tactical, more opportunistic, or maybe in certain regions. So I think that's one. I think focus is one. And the second is repeatability. Especially in a business of scale, the ability to not start from scratch is huge, right? So of course, we have processes and we have materials and we have the know-how. That's easy, but in a world where a sales cycle average is 9 to 18 months, and that's what I tell, by the way, every new partner I meet, I tell them, hey, listen, I don't know what you're used to, but in our world, in the telecommunication industry, it doesn't matter if you sell $100,000 deal or $10 million deal. More or less the sales cycle is 9 to 18 months in average, right? There are exceptions. I closed the deal with Adobe, which is also, as I said, not a small company, with a major tier one in North America, which is also not one of the fastest one, to say the least. And from RFP to deal closure and start of the project, it was 6 months. And it was about, I think it was a $20 million deal, right? So there are exceptions, but I had tiny deals that dragged for 3 years. So going back to repeatability, the ability to take something we've done, package it, and then do it again quicker, or at least at a minimum invest less resources or less time for everyone in that process is big.
Yoav, what would you say is the greatest opportunity that's facing Amdocs or your team from a partnering perspective? We hear a lot about ecosystems, for example, and just kind of the evolution, the natural evolution. I mean, 5G is a huge thing right now going on in telecom. A lot of interoperability of different networks and technologies. It's all about the bandwidth and everything being in high definition and so much video. Just how technology is going, how telecoms are going, and the services that you provide in. From a partnering perspective, what are some of the interesting challenges, or actually, or opportunities that you see for Amdocs to help continue to evolve the telecommunications space?
Yeah. Well, actually, it goes hand in hand with the technology evolution and the business evolution. So, as I said earlier, our mission is to help our customers succeed and serve their customers. So we want to enable them, and if we can do it in the best way, that's the opportunity. Now, if you look at technologies, yes, obviously, bandwidth and 5G is one very hot topic. Automation, or even hyper automation, is another. And I think actually automation is part of, or sometimes thought of as a part of digital transformation, and that thing we're experiencing right now, the COVID, actually accelerated the digital transformation or the digital revolution, if you will. But it's been there before, and it will be there after. That's somewhere the world is moving to. So the move to digital has so many implications on the business, and in a good way, and in many challenging ways. So that's another thing that we are very big on, and it's a big opportunity for us and for our partners to help our customers evolve and become digital, because all of them are not digital, what we call digital natives. If you look at a new startup that we talked about, right? If they are starting now, most likely they will be digital natives, whether their founders are digital native generation, like the Z generation or the Y generation, or it's people that are older, but the company is built on a foundation of the new technologies and new business processes. It's in their DNA. Older companies, it's not in their DNA, so they have even customers not as big as, let's say, a Fortune 100, they usually have hundreds, if not more, of different application and IT stacks on different technologies, and their business processes don't talk to each other and don't talk to the technology they're using. Now, if you look at a company like Amazon, one of the things that allowed them to grow and become what they are and act so quickly and define the user experience is the fact that everything there was built from the ground up in a digital way, in a certain way. And so I think that digital transformation, or the ability to transform your company into as close as possible to a digital native company, is the biggest challenge, the biggest opportunity that actually every company has, not only in telecommunication. It goes back to the way you can serve your customers. How fast can you do it? How fast can you get the order, process it, and ship it, and make sure it got there on time and it's all good, and collect the feedback from the customer. It's a matter of how you do things in-house. What's your internal customer employee experience? The employees as a customer, right? What tools do you provide your employees so they can serve your customer better, do their job better, communicate to each other, right? You talked about Monday, that's what they do, right? So I think that's a second. And of course, with new technologies come new opportunities that were not there before. And you can talk about amazing hypes of drones and self-driving cars, but honestly, it might not be that futuristic, because there are many things that we do today that just can be, with just a small incremental improvement, you can make them 50% better.
Yeah, I was. Right before, right before the COVID shutdown, I was out in Vegas to do a keynote, and I got to ride in one of the Lyft cars, the autonomous vehicles. It was manned, but about 95% of our ride was totally hands off. And that was an interesting experience. But yeah, the future is here. And partnerships is not only a way, I think it is going to be the way. Whenever you're talking about so much of technology and just the globalization, I definitely want to talk to you some more about about cultures and regions and having this international reach for partnerships, that door being open wider now than it ever has been before. But partnerships will be the way. All the trends and statistics are showing that if you don't know how to partner, your organization is in trouble. But Yoav, I'd love to have you chat a little bit, just with your wealth of experience of doing international partnerships and Amdocs being such a large international organization. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you've learned about cultures and and just even geography, and how that plays into partnerships and what you've learned over the years?
Sure, I think that's crucial, because first of all, I agree with you that the more we go into the future, partnership will be even more crucial, just because of the fact that no one can do everything the best way, right? There's always specialization. There's always the greatest startup that does things better. And you want to focus on, even if you can do something and you can do it well, it doesn't mean you have to do it. And that's what I tell people all the time. Hey, okay, that we have a gap in the product. We can build it internally. We have amazing people, but should we? Right? So I think that's for sure, and that will continue to be the case, and will be more and more. And I think the startups and big companies alike, partnership is all about people. And just like the parallel to sales, people do business and people partner with people, and with people they connect with and trust. It's all about relationship. It's all about trust. The technology is important. The business model, of course, is important, but those are the second pillar. So it's all about people connecting with people, and with that, it's crucial to be at least aware of the differences and complexity that culture brings into the mix, into the game. And you can think about it even in the US, right? The East Coast mentality and the West Coast mentality, or the Southern mentality, right? It's different. It's not that different. You share the same values, the same perception of time, for example, but there are subtle differences, right? Now, take it to the next level. If you talk to people from another region, another culture, another time zone, there might be things, or there will be things that are different that impact fundamentally the way they interact, the way they perceive things, the way they communicate. And you need at the minute to be aware of that. And if you will be, it will help you. If not, it can actually kill the deal. So, I can tell you that as someone who has, I call it roots on both sides of the sea, or both sides of the ocean, right? I grew up in Israel, and as much as I traveled the world, even when I was there, and I was serving customers all around the world from Israel for many, many years, when I came to the States, I thought, hey, I've been doing business with North America for 10, 15 years. I know the culture, I know how things work. It's not such a big deal. It took me a while to understand how much I didn't know and I didn't realize about American culture. And you can claim that Israeli culture, American culture, at least the Western world culture, is relatively similar. But then take it to other places in the world. For example, South America, the perception of time is different. Talk about India and their very hierarchical nature society, and how they treat someone who is more senior, what they will and will not say. So, for example, you will never, or you will less hear a pushback. You will not say hear no. You will say hear a yes, but even the but is very subtle. Okay. On the other hand, even in US culture, if you compare it to Middle Eastern culture, the tendency or the willingness to confront, and of course it varies by the person and by East Coast, West Coast, but in general, it's less confrontational, and it's all about subtle things, right? For example, if you get, I think something that I've seen so many times is like an Israeli company goes into a meeting with an American customer, or North American customer, can be even with Canadians, right? The meeting goes on, they present, there are some questions, some discussion. We go to the meeting, I ask the guys, how was it? And they almost always, the answer is, it was great, it was amazing, they loved us, they loved the product, we're going to seal the deal tomorrow. And I sit there and ask them, really, are you sure? Yes, we are. And why? Because everyone were nice, no one challenged them, the word no did not come. People said it's interesting, right? Which for you is one thing.
For them, it's another.
For them, they take it as face value. Interesting is great. Well, interesting can be both ways. It depends on the tone, right? And again, it goes on and on. There's even, talk about even about names, right? Names or nickname. For example, I had a friend of mine, his name is David. It's a very common Jewish name. Now, the nickname, or in short of this name, which is very common in Israel, is Dudi. Now, he was a senior executive. You can, and you can imagine how it would be perceived if he walked into a board meeting in the States and presented himself as Duty. That's not, doesn't go so well, right? And again, it goes on and on. There's actually, if you look at my LinkedIn website, there's one article that I read that I loved by a lady from the West Coast who's been just like me, living on both sides of the sea. She wrote a very interesting article about the 5 top mistakes that Israeli startups make when pitching to Americans. And she wrote in a very light way. It's not heavy reading. I actually read it and found myself nodding and say, yes, been there, done that. I know that one. And it's very funny. She said there's a phrase, a catchphrase I like. She said that Israelis are like Texan with hummus. And if you want to go actually deeper than that, which by the way, I found this topic fascinating. If you go back to school, there is actually a whole study or set of studies about the difference in culture and business. And there's a scholar named Hofstede that talks about the 6 dimension of culture and how different nation and region map in each dimension. And the dimensions are like individualism, power distance, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. You just look it up. And also, if you don't have to read the entire study, you just have to understand the concept. And if you just look at it, you understand the meaning of those parameters and how different societies look at each one, that can be a very, very helpful tool.
Oh, absolutely. I think, as we were talking about earlier, that the world is getting so much smaller. I mean, it's almost every day I am on a Zoom call with a client or just having a conversation with somebody from the other hemisphere. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's Dublin, Ireland a week ago, earlier today with a gal from India, all over the world. And you know, as the world becomes smaller, as we are able to partner, as we're able to connect with international resources, this topic is going to become absolutely critical to understand. So that is definitely something that we need to be thinking about. Yoav, I want to ask you. So you know, you've had a really strong career and done a lot of different things, but it hasn't always been partnering. What is it about the partnering role that intrigued you and that has you kind of planting your flag here for a while?
If I look back at my career, and I've actually started in Amdocs as a developer. I started from the ground up and worked my way, through the corporate ladder and different things. And I've done almost everything from product development and project delivery, and then moved to sales, or actually pre-sales and technology sales and account management. And in the past 6 years, I've been doing partnerships. And just before I went to partnership, I was thinking about what my next role, what I want to do. And I kind of figured, well, I've actually done a bit of everything. And that's what partnership is.
I was going to say, that's a perfect pedigree to do partnerships. You got to know a little bit of everything.
Right. And if, I had a chat with someone who wanted to go into partnership a while back, and that's what I told him. I said, hey, you can start as a partner manager. You can do that. That's not rocket science. But if you have a chance to experience a bit of every discipline, some technology, some management, account management, customer management, and some sales, some more on the business side, operation,
product development.
Yeah, you will be a much better at what you do as a partnership. First of all, because you talk to as a partner, a partner leader, a partner developer, a partner manager. It's like a quarterback, right? You're only as strong as your team, and you need to lead the team, or at least help them, center. So if you know how it is, you don't have to be the best running back, but got to know what it is that they're looking for, what their point of view is, right? You'll be a better quarterback if you had experience as a running back. Now, in the sport world, it's not always possible, but in the business world, it is. And I see the difference between people that came into a partner's role from only an operational background. They look at things through one set of glasses. It's all operation. I look at people that come from technology. It's all about the solution. Now, if you have a chance, if you can experience some of each, I think you'll be better. And that's what I like about it, because it's a sum of all, and you get to do everything. So it's always interesting. And I find myself on calls sometime talking about go-to-market strategies, sometime guiding someone about how to structure the P&L, sometime, how do we build a business model, and sometimes what is the joint story and the elevator pitch about the partnership. So,
yeah. A lot of what I hear you say is it's also about empathy. We hear a lot about that word, especially over the last 5 to 10 years or so in the partnering space, but being able to empathize, being able to really understand other people's perspectives, because you have a background and an appreciation and understanding of kind of a 360 approach to business. As you mentioned, sometimes it's product, sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's pricing, sometimes it's finance, it's the business case, it's pricing, it's the legal terms, the legal aspects, it's operational,
right.
Delivery. There's so many different components. You're absolutely right in that. So
By the way,
go ahead.
No one can do everything. Even if you spend 20 years and trying to do everything, but and there are things that, for example, I have no background in legal, but I've done so many contracts in my life that today I can probably draft contracts and redline to some extent like a lawyer, right? So learn on the fly. Even if you come from an engineering background and you've never done sales in your life, and you find yourself in a partnership role. So take time, plan, spend time with your colleagues, sit down with product management, ask them, just like you do, I'll make that real, just like you do with your wife, right? But in a very different way. Ask them how their day was. What are the challenges that they are facing? How can you help them? Even if there's nothing concrete, learn about their way, their perspective. Do the same with the sales folk, with the finance folks, and then try to bring it all together when you're building a partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Then jump on the Partnernomics platform and enroll in the Strategic Partner Leadership Professional certification. But Yoav, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights. We definitely appreciate that.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure. It's actually.
Partnernomics Podcast is brought to you by Partnernomics. Learn how to leverage the power of partnership. To listen to more episodes of Partnernomics Podcast, visit partnernomics.com.